Hello, this is Smith and this is my digital portfolio for the English 9 final exam. In this presentation, I will be analyzing 3 previously chosen pieces of work from the past year. These 3 pieces of work will help aid in showing my growth as a writer in various areas. The 3 pieces of work I will be using are the autobiographical incident, the Marcello pastiche, and an essay from history class in which I compared the development of India compared to the US. The first piece of work I would like to talk about is the autobiographical incident. The autobiographical incident was an assignment from which we chose an event in our lives that had happened over the space of 24 years, and we felt it affected us emotionally. So, my idea for my autobiographical incident was the first time I went skiing, and for that I made a rough plan. So in my rough plan, I wrote down my feelings, what I would have been feeling before, whilst, or even after the event, what happened, so quite general overview, and how I would felt afterwards, which were the 3 most needed parts. Also, since we had been studying rhetoric at that time, we also used techniques to help in answer writings, and I attempted to use these 5 techniques of personification, similes, dialogue, italicization, and imagery to make my writing better and more sophisticated. After a rough planning session as well as a rough draft, I started writing my autobiographical incident, trying to keep in mind the usage of all my techniques, the rhetoric techniques that I should use. So for the first rhetoric technique I used was imagery, where I decided to explain what was happening at that point in life in such a way that the reader could visualize. And I will just read this out now. I waited, watching the days turn shorter. The warmth sucked out the thick layers of mist, a blanket for the frosted grass, and for once I was happy for it. Imagery is just a rhetoric technique that helps the reader visualize what would be happening in the scene or at that certain point in time. Another rhetoric technique I used was dialogue, which was quite simple as I created conversations with different people in the story. My third technique, well, you see I have another technique of imagery, however, that does not need to be read out again. The next technique, the third technique, was the use of italicization, which is a rhetorical strategy which I used to show my thoughts and my feelings at that point in time. This helped give an insight to how I would be feeling. The last strategy I used was personification, where I gave an inanimate object a human trait, such as the wind slapped my face. Now let's compare how my AI correlated with the assigned rubric for this project. As you will see, the exceptional category includes the use of 3 to 4 rhetorical strategies, which I used, and was thoughtful considering incident as well as the reflection that I wrote afterwards. The other categories included organization, authorship, style, and mechanics, which were not the most focused upon areas by me in this case. Now, the next piece of work that I would like to talk about is the Marcello pastiche. So, again, before writing my actual pastiche, I went on to make a rough plan as to what I would be planning to do for the assignment. I made a list of elements that I would like to imitate from the author, such as italicization, dialogue, switching between people, religious references, and even letters. Then I jotted down a few ideas of my pastiche as to what I would like to write about, or what I would like the story to develop into, and lastly wrote a quick overview of the character's life in the future as to what their lives would be like. In my final piece of the Marcello pastiche writing, I used and incorporated as many of the rhetoric techniques as well as the author techniques I could. I used imagery as a rhetoric technique. I used repetition, which hasn't been mentioned before, but in an example here, I would keep repeating the words 4 years since, which helped emphasize the impact that the 4 years might have had and how important they had been. Then I used the element, such as an author, as the letter, since I thought that would add to the emotional appeal of the book, of the pastiche, as well as dialogue, which was another element to imitate, as well as being a rhetoric technique. I switched often between third and first person. This just gave a more realistic feel of the book, as the author has done this quite often. Another technique used was italicization. This was used by the author as well as being a rhetoric technique, and in both cases it was used to show the character's thoughts and mind processes, and which is exactly the way I used it here. And again, I used imagery, which is one of the most redundant strategies in all my writings, so I did not feel the need to read it out loud again. Another thing I would like to point out is all of the words highlighted in yellow, such as catastrophic, potentially, or phrases such as clinging on to his rough stubble before plummeting to their deaths, which are basically examples of which I think might be advanced diction or nice usage of phrases. The last piece of work that I would like to talk about before giving an overall conclusion about my improvement is my essay for history class. For this essay, I think that this was one a very strong opening and hook sentence, as it aided in giving a quick introduction into the following essay, organized the layout, as well as using a complex diction with the words being able to flow together. This was one of the strongest hook sentences I believe I've written in the entire year, and I'll just read it out loud now. So, the hook sentence is, as the Republic of India was on its developing stages, US had already claimed its position as a top developed nation, and as it may seem on the face that US has been developing much faster than India, but the facts provided not only contradict the statement, but also aid in proving that the growth in India has been exponentially faster. And this hook, like I said, lays out my entire essay for me, tells the reader what things are going to be talked about, not into detail, but just giving an overall display. Again, there are highlighted words or phrases such as economic disparity, perpetual, surpass, rectification. However, if I read all of them, that would become quite redundant again. Another thing that I tried to include or improved upon was the use of transition words, which have been highlighted in light blue, such as on the other hand, or as a result of, in which I could give two different sides of the story, or even allow myself to talk about a cause, consequences and cause. The second thing that I think I improved upon while writing this essay was the fact that I was able to use concrete evidence and facts to support my ideas, using numbers and data collected from research to support my point. Another thing that I improved upon, as you haven't seen that before in any other piece of work, was in-text citations, although the other pieces of work might have been different genres. And again, there are various amounts of transition words, as well as advanced diction. Now, just concluding my digital portfolio, I'm going to be giving a conclusion, in which I will be talking about an overall view of how I have improved in my writing, as well as stating things that I should be improving upon or continuing to work with. So, some improvements that I've made are that I've been starting to use much more advanced diction in my writing, as you might have seen in the documents with the more highlighted areas than before. Another thing that I've improved highly upon are the use of concrete evidence in my writing to support my beliefs or theories, as well as including some in-text citations. Something I've worked on quite a lot is my sentence structure, varying the types of sentences I use, as well as the mechanics of the sentences and how they might flow along. However, the things I still need to work upon or continue to do are such as keep making rough drafts before writing a proper essay, since I think that helps me quite a bit, and it allows me to write much better with more quality. However, I would feel that I should be writing a bit more when I do a rough planning session. And lastly, I would also like to keep getting reviews from my peers so they can help me with my work. And I think that these things will help me improve. I hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.